Hello, Miss Ashley Lewis, Manager of Security and Parking at St.John Of God Hospital in Murdoch. My name is Malcolm Coleman and I have over 4 years experience as a licensed security guard officer, working in many diverse areas, including regional hospitals. I was required to be drive-in, drive-out of Mullewa for the regional government health campus there, where I was solely responsible, myself and another security officer, who we both worked on rotating shifts. So one was on days, one was on nights, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 12-hour shifts, security monitoring experience. Also, my main objective was there the hospital didn't have a lot of patients, only outpatients that came in and went out. However, the emergency department and mainly for the protection of hospital staff and nurses was my primary role, where I conducted foot patrols as well, both internally and externally of the hospital corridors and outside verandas and car park, just to make sure and deter, and also access control for certain patients because the doors would be locked unless they were authorised to come in, which of course would be on instruction of the nurses that were on duty. Mullewa was a reasonable big hospital, but not really, and it didn't have the patients that it once had in the rooms. So it was more for emergency procedures that was used. So my job entailed foot patrols, also mobile patrols of nurses' quarters as well, escorting nurses in at night to walk home so they were safe. I had the prime responsibility of taking care of that. I've worked at Perth Airport in security, both with passengers, so customer service roles in regards to dealing with people, all types of people coming in through the terminal to board flights, as well as working and being promoted to the gatehouse, where I was an aviation protection officer, access control, conducting mobile patrols of airport property, both landside, as they call it, outside the airfield, and then airside, which was the airfield. So conducting security patrols and checking gates, fences, anything abnormal or anything that was suspicious. I would be writing up incident reports, taking photos, video, what was required, being in touch with ACCC, which is the Airport Control Centre, to let them know if there was any breach or any vandalism. At one stage there was a gate cut, so I took photos of the padlock that was cut, the gate, reported it, of course, and needed someone to attend to that straight away because it was actually a security risk with having access from Kalamunda Road to the end of the runway. So seeing that on a patrol where 2 hours before that wasn't the case. I've also worked in regional airports, Learmonth, fly in, fly out. With the hospitals though, which is more relevant to this role, I worked at Mullewa, Meekatharra and the Newman health campuses. Newman Hospital being a bigger sort of hospital, and of course it had patients that stayed there. So I was also there with a primary role of the protection of hospital staff and patients in that hospital, and at times having to deal with situations where there were mental health patients. I'd do patient sits. So describing in all the questions that you've asked, I'm sort of intertwining them, but while it's because I'm thinking of it at the time relevant to the job I'm doing. I had a young 18-year-old that I had to patient sit, and he was under strict police instruction that he must be watched to make sure of no self-harm or harm to anyone else. So on an occasion, working under pressure, which I know I'm not doing this in order, but I'm just trying to recall all the questions that I'm meant to be answering. Under pressure, one of the doors he got access outside was trying to scale the fence. I gently, and I mean gently, tried to talk to him calmly and slowly. The idea, I think, as a role as security officer is to de-escalate any situation, not escalate it. So being friendly in a friendly, kind manner, knowing that he was ill, was reassuring him that I'm not there to harm him or anything, but at the same token, I'm also got a job to do, and that he knew it was wrong that he was trying to leave the property. When a nurse came out and asked us to back off, then of course I followed her order, because that if a nurse tells a security officer who's working at a hospital, they're in charge. So I backed away, and he ended up scaling the fence some distance away when she was trying to ask him to come back in the hospital. Lucky enough, though, police were present on the outside. Within 5 minutes, they had restrained him to bring him back into the hospital. And after that, he was pretty well behaved, and realised that, that we were just doing our job, and he thanked me as well. So I felt that it was a win-win in the way that he didn't know who, apart from seeing a uniform and me as a security officer, he also saw me as a human being, just doing my job, to be able to thank me afterwards, which I felt like I've achieved something in gaining not only his trust, but the fact that he was acting in a friendly manner and no longer seeing me as in his eyes, as an authority figure who was threatening, because I wasn't. What else? I've worked on mining plant, access control, gatehouse, so I've had to do drug and alcohol testing of people coming on site. To describe a situation, which I'm recalling, where I was under pressure, there's been a few incidents, just like I've just mentioned, though I had to also work teamwork, working with nurses and hospital staff always, if they needed assistance, as well as with police. So there was a couple of occasions where we had the same patient that would come in on methamphetamine drugs. So we had to keep watch. He wasn't on any charge, but for his own health's sake, and they had to put him in hospital to basically come down from those drugs, and it took something like 5 hours, where I was patiently standing with police in the room because police were guarding him, but I was also watching out for the nurses that had to assist him to make sure that he didn't pose any threat to them. So I successfully managed to do that. He did try to escape at one stage, like run for the door. I blocked, just basically said, you can't go anywhere. Assertively, not aggressively, just assertively, to be able to show authority. And he sort of backed away, and the police had him anyway. Working as a team, I've been used to doing that in most security roles, and also customer service skills. I think customer service is at the forefront of being a security officer. On most occasions, it's being friendly, the general public asking for assistance, where a toilet is, directions. Your primary role is to be able to, customer service is the forefront. And it was at the airport with dealing with passengers. It was to deal with even the service staff that worked at the airport. Anyone that wasn't in my position is basically a customer that's coming through as to get a service, either through a hospital, airport, any organisation really. Your customer service skills are your friendly, easygoing disposition, until such an event arises where you just have to be able to stand ground and professionally and courteously. And as I said, it's about de-escalating any situation, not aggravating it. And I've successfully done that in a number of different scenarios where that was definitely what was needed. Trying to think. Now, the scenario of a patient, I'm walking through a hospital, a patient comes up a little distressed because they can't find their loved one. What I would do in that case is reassure them, make them calm down, or try to, by reassuring them that I will do my best. I can't promise, and I wouldn't, but I'm going to do my best in seeing where their loved one was. Obviously, we're talking about a loved one that's obviously in hospital and they can't find them. Then I would ask them to take a seat, and I would see one of the hospital staff or a nurse, or go to the nurse's station and see if they know the whereabouts of their loved one, doing anything to try and assist. And of course, if it was the fact that they've gone walking, then I would obviously be checking the areas of the hospital car park, whatever, to be able to find their loved one if that was the case. Your question is basically leaves that sort of broad, because it depends on whether they've just gone to the toilet or whether the person doesn't know what room they're in. That's why I check with the hospital staff to see if they knew the whereabouts of their loved one. What else? Yeah, so there's been a lot of situations with conflict resolution. I was dealing with a mental health patient that came on a regular basis, on a fortnightly basis. So he was known. He was Aboriginal, and the nurses did say that he was schizophrenic and he could be aggressive. So always friendly to him, unless, as I said, unless there is a situation where it requires you to stand assertive. I was always polite to him, and as you do, and he's just a person until he does anything. On this occasion, he wasn't comfortable with coming into the emergency department at Mulla. The nurses would make it easier for him to sit on the seat on the outside veranda, and they would bring out, I believe, I'm not medical staff, but a drip on a stand for his fortnightly injection that he needed, which he would come voluntarily, because even though he was an older man, well, mid-aged man, his mother used to bring him, and now he was independent on coming on his own. So he was aware that he needed treatment, and that's why he would come to the hospital. Though on this occasion, he seemed a bit aggressive. I followed the nurses out just to basically stand behind them. My presence was there for him to know, just in case he lashed out, because he could be known to do that. And my job, as I said, was there to reassure the nurses that I'm here. So if anything happens, and if it doesn't, all goes well, that's great. I would say hello to him, as I did. His name was David, so I'd say, hello, David. These nurses are here to help you. And one of them actually was asking to do the injection, and he did abuse them and called him a name, which I won't repeat. It was quite nasty. I just calmly, though assertively, said, David, these ladies are trying to care for you. You know you're here because you need treatment. Please let them do their job, because that's what you're here for. And then you can be on your way. And they're being caring, and they're just trying to help you. So please don't make it hard for them. Okay? Because otherwise, as I said, and that's all I said. And he then just let them do the injection, and there was no problem after that. Everything was okay. So I hope that covers quite a bit of ground. I know each question was individual, but I'm recapping everything that was in the questionnaire. And why St. John of God? Well, going by the hospital experience and security that I've had, working at Mulla, Meekatharra, regional hospitals, and Newman, you do get a lot of diverse people that come in from all walks of life. And I did have to deal with a situation which was a black code, where I literally had to run from one end of the hospital to the reception desk in another part of the hospital, where there was a gentleman who came in and he was throwing paper in the air, bits of paper, don't know why, but the pen that was chained to the desk, he tried to reach through to stab the receptionist behind the desk. And there was that hard plastic shield, Perspex, I think, shield to prevent anyone getting over the counter. But just through the gap that was in there, he tried to do that. Now, I saw that on the monitor screen, and that's what made me run for it. Obviously, an alarm was going off by the time I was on foot, but by the time I got there, he had gone. I then retraced the security footage on the computer, and then cut that to be able to give them, because there's so much footage there. Had to trace back to the approximate time that he was there doing this. Saw what he did with what I was told, and then I wrote up an incident report, cut the footage and called police to be in attendance. I think police were already called anyway. And then when the police arrived, I said they gave me instruction on where to send the footage to them, and that they want to see the receptionist at the end of her work duties to be able to give a statement down at the police station. So yeah, I've dealt with a few situations, and obviously that gentleman had fled, obviously when the alarms went off, but that was a black code that we had to deal with because he did threaten to harm one of the hospital staff members. And of course, I was the only one on shift. In most regional cases, there's 2 security guards, one working at day, one working at night, while the other one's sleeping. So 12-hour shifts, and on foot patrols, administration work, incident reporting, CCTV footage. Had experience in all of that, as well as working, as I said, aviation, hospital, healthcare, you name it. I hope that has answered all your questions, and I look very much forward to discussing this position with you further in the future, should this be successful. I hope so. And I look forward to being a valued member of your team. And the reason why I think I'd be a valued member of St. John of God would be the fact that through the experiences that I've had in so many diverse environments, and relevant to the hospital with 3 hospitals that I've worked in regionally, I think I'd be a valuable asset because I have the attributes to have good customer service skills, which is primarily the forefront of our job, as far as I'm concerned. Well, that's how I think. And that way, you're going to also hold up the hospital brand in a good way as well. The reflection on what you do reflects on the hospital as well. And you're going to have to deal with situations where you are assertive and you have to show authority. That's part of my job. But always conversing and always listening to those personnel that are in charge, such as yourself and the hospital staff, what they require of the security officer to do. I hope that's answered all the questions. I'm sure I haven't missed any. I hope not. And if there is anything else that you need to know, please do not hesitate to contact me. And I look forward to speaking with you further to do with this position in the future. Thank you, Ashley. Bye.